Welcome, everybody. It's Electric Gold time, and I'm Ryan here with my good friends John and Evan, and we're ready to talk about the Nashville Soccer Club and all of their endeavors this week. John, Evan, how you guys doing today?
I'm recovering from a late night of watching the most god-awful soccer game in the history of the sport.
Yeah, I'm in denial this morning. That's how I am.
Well, perhaps your spirits can be lifted with a tasty beverage. Do you guys have something at your side to share with us?
I do indeed. I'm promoting Nashville Brewery, Southern Grist Brewing once again this morning. I have, get a load of this, I have a black currant pineapple strawberry hill from Southern Grist.
Good Lord.
It is a fruity delight. It's sour. It's wonderful. It's the perfect beer after a night of horrors.
One way to drown your sorrows right there. How about you, Evan?
Hey, I'm enjoying the nut brown ale from the Blackstone Brewing Company here in Nashville. And yeah, it's kind of an English brown ale, medium bodied, toasty. It's quite nice.
Excellent. That's a terrific choice on this cool spring morning. And I've got a Nashville beer as well. This is from Yazoo.
Yes.
And it's the Hoppery Hazy IPA.
Ooh, I love that one.
This soft, juicy IPA is brewed with pale malt, flaked wheat, oats, and barley, along with a blend of citrus-forward hop varieties.
Man.
Sounds delicious.
It does.
Let's have a sip, and cheers to you guys.
Cheers,
boys.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of that after last night, and I'm sure we'll dig into the details here in a moment. But first, let's do the Weekend Rewind. On Monday, Alex Muyl received some recognition for his electrifying play during the 2-1 home victory against Charlotte FC last weekend, being named to the bench of the MLS Team of Matchday 5 for the week. Muyl scored a header during the game and had two other shots just miss, while also covering the most distance for the team and winning the most duels. NSC encountered a bit of bad news on Thursday when it was reported that fan favorite Lucas McNaughton suffered a groin injury during practice that would leave him out of the upcoming match against LAFC. McNaughton also wrestled with a groin injury through the summer of last season. This compounds an already thin NSC backline, which was missing Walker Zimmerman, who picked up a knee injury earlier this year and underwent surgery on March 13th, which should keep him out of lineup for at least 3 to 4 weeks. Other senior players missing for the LAFC game would be Randall Leal, who has not yet played this year to a lingering hamstring issue, Jacob Schaffelberg and Annabelle Godoy, who are both engaged in international play this past week. Speaking of international play, Schaffelberg shined in Canada's match against Trinidad and Tobago, scoring a header in extra time that iced the 2-0 win. Before his goal in the 91st minute, Schaff was already putting the pressure on, having just missed on a shot that caught the post in the 87th minute. The win in the CONCACAF Nations League qualifies Canada for the Copa America tournament this summer, where they will face none other than Argentina and Inter Miami star Lionel Messi. Later on Saturday, NSC traveled to the West Coast to face a struggling LA Football Club, who had started the season with just 1 win, 2 losses, and a draw. Last season's Golden Boot winner Dennis Bouanga had not yet scored in their first several matches, but all that would change against Nashville. With NSC shorthanded on defense, LAFC dominated throughout, first catching fire in the 9th minute as Timothy Tillman converted a corner kick on a mistimed Joe Willis leap. Shortly afterwards, Tillman was impactful once again, earning a penalty kick on a foul from Taylor Washington. LA's star Bouanga converted the PK, and the rout was on, but just beginning. After halftime, NSC coach Gary Smith subbed in Dan Lovitz for Washington, but nothing changed as Bouanga headed in his second goal of the night just after play resumed. But wait, there's more. The boys in gold spiraled further out of control when goalkeeper Joe Willis was left on an island and aggressively charged to prevent a runaway goal, but ended up putting hands on the ball outside the box, resulting in an automatic red card. Reduced to just 10 men, the onslaught continued as Christian Oliveira scored in the 74th minute and Edward Atuesta nailed a beautiful diving header in stoppage time. Whew.
That sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible. The loss to LAFC represents several unfortunate milestones for NSC. This was easily the ugliest match in their history as an MLS team. They had never given up 5 goals in a match before until last night, and thus this was the largest margin defeat in their history. It was also the largest discrepancy in expected goals at 3.56. Though they won the possession battle in this game, they were outshot 23-9, and the shots on goal were a lopsided 12-5. The League's Cup final against Miami last August appears to be a turning point for the club. Since then, NSC has competed in 21 matches across all competitions, and they've just won 5. 2 of those were against Amoca FC in the CONCACAF Cup tournament, and Amoca appeared to be a team that was far inferior to the level of MLS play. During that same time, NSC has played in 17 MLS games and scored only 14 goals while allowing 21. Hani Mukhtar, Nashville star finisher and 2022 Golden Boot winner and league MVP, has only scored 3 goals since that League's Cup final, and none in MLS play since September, a streak of 12 games. And Evan, we're going to start there. Ben Wright, the excellent reporter from Broadway Sports, was talking to Gary Smith after the game and ran through some of these stats about the team's performance since last year, just asking in general what to be concerned about. And Gary had a pretty canned response about missing a lot of key players, being shorthanded for the first part of this year, and ended his response by saying it was a bit premature to be thinking that way. Do you agree? Are we being premature with this heightened level of concern about the team's play since last year?
I think so. I'm inclined. I feel the same way and have felt that way since, I don't know, halfway through the first half of last night's match. As soon as I heard that McNaughton wasn't going to be there, I already knew Zimmerman wasn't going to be there. It was gone. I just knew that it wasn't going to be. I didn't know that we were going to play that poorly, but I knew that that was going to be key. And then, of course, on top of that, the 2 guys out on international break. And I just thought, this isn't going to be the opportunity that I thought it was to get 2 in a row. And then a broader overview. We have not had our full slate of players, including our new additions, our retooled offense, available to us. Maybe 1 game, but maybe no games this season. And here's the other thought that I had about last night's match. A 1-0 loss is the same as a 5-0 loss when it comes down to it in the course of a long season. It doesn't feel that way when you're getting your teeth kicked in like we were last night, but the fact remains it was a late night West Coast road trip with several key players missing, and now we just move on, put it in the rearview mirror, and focus coming back home, an Eastern Conference opponent. I think it's a little premature at this point to panic.
John, what do you think?
I wouldn't panic yet, but we're getting there, aren't we? We've got 3 games coming up. At home against defending champion Columbus. At home against Philadelphia, who have been about the most consistent team in MLS over the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't think we've ever beaten anywhere. And then after that, there's an off week, and then we play at Miami. I feel like if we don't get 6 points out of those 3, it's going to be panic time. Like, we've played so bad for so long. I don't know. I'm not as optimistic as I was last week, I'll tell you that.
I'm surprised you guys are being as optimistic as you are, to be honest. Let me repeat this. We've played 21 matches since the League's Cup final, and we've won 5. We have played 17 MLS games, and we've scored 14 goals, and we've allowed 21. To me, we're beyond this is just a hiccup, or this is something that we should be not too concerned because we've had players out. This is a consistent trend, in my opinion. And I think that we're searching for answers like Inigo Montoya looking for the 6-fingered man. I think that it's a real struggle right now. And we were missing a lot of key players last night. But it was 5-0. I mean, it was ugly. It was just about as ugly as I think it could probably get. So, again, I'm impressed with your level of optimism, particularly you, Evan, that you're able to shrug this one off so easily. I thought it was pretty devastating.
I do feel we might as well have just played Huntsville in that game last night. Let the regulars who were healthy and on hand just stay at home and rest.
It was funny that you mentioned that. Actually, before the podcast this morning, I did some research to see if we should just talk about Huntsville so far instead of Nashville. But we'll stick to the NSC boys right now.
Yeah, let's talk about anything but NSC today.
You're not so lucky. Let's get into the best and the worst. All right, so we're going to each identify the best thing we saw this week. My be a little bit difficult to do. And the worst thing that you saw this week, and there's plenty to choose from. So, John, what was the best thing that you saw this past week?
Well, I got to say, this was the hardest assignment when I was trying to take notes. God, probably 15 or 20 minutes. And this was the best I could come up with. We only have one more late night Saturday night game for the rest of the season.
That's good.
Because don't those suck? Doesn't it suck waiting all day? And then it's 9:30 at night. It's time to wind down in my middle age, possibly old age. Yeah, I hate them. And I know Nashville Preds fans have been dealing with this for as long as the team has existed, because the Preds always play in the Western Conference, so those West Coast road swings suck. But yeah, we play Portland sometime in July, and that's a 9:30 game. But all the rest of our road games this year, I believe, have a 6:30 kickoff time. So hallelujah for that.
That's good news. There's some silver lining there. I haven't seen any statistics around it. Statistics when it comes to the MLS are hard to come by. But I've got to assume that this plays out like you see in other sports, where that West Coast, East Coast swing that teams have to do can really affect their performance. And you can lay some numbers to it, where if you're traveling from East Coast or Central Time Zone and you have to go play on the West Coast, the records, I think, would probably give credence to the idea that there's some loss of performance there just from having to deal with the time zone jump.
Yeah, I bet they're pretty bad. I mean, you think about like European teams, I don't know, English Premier teams go and have to play like in Turkey or like Ukraine or something. I don't think they do too well. And that's the only comparable trip that those teams ever have to what American teams have to do constantly, crossing back and forth over the continent. But yeah, I bet you're right.
Evan, what's the best thing that you saw this week?
Well, the best thing that I saw was national treasure Elizabeth Banks in the pregame last night, living her best life and flashing that winning smile. But since you're going to make me talk about the game, I'll say that the best thing I saw, I'll give you a tie. It was probably a tie. The best things that I saw were Drew Yearwood, I think, continued to show improvement, show his quality. I really thought he was our best player last night overall. He gave the ball away a few times, but compared to everybody else on the team who gave the ball away many times, I actually thought that that was a good thing. The two-way tie is between that and Sam continuing to hit the target. Now, of course, the goal got disallowed for what I thought was a little bit of a soft foul, but he was on target, so that ain't bad.
There were two services to Sam that looked really nice last night. The one there that he was called on the shove, called for the foul, where he did get the header into the goal. There was one, I think, just a few minutes prior to that, where he got the ball into the middle and he was offsides. But boy, that run looked really nice. And I would love to see a lot more of that. I believe, at least on that offsides, when Shaq was the one who passed it up to him, and Shaq was in the center of the field, passed it directly forward. We just never see that. We always see attacks coming from the sides. And I thought that was really fun. And I want to see some more attacks that are more creative and not just always take it down the wing, cross it and hope and pray. I can't remember how he ended up with the ball on the shove. It was an aerial, I think, that came in and he knocked that header, but I can't remember who served it to him. Do you guys remember?
I think Shaq.
Shaq again.
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Shaq was pretty decent, at least in that first half, as far as performances go.
Oh, it might have been Honey, though. I can't remember.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah, might have been. Anyway, what was the... before we go on to the worst things, Evan, just real quick, I know you haven't prepared this at all. What's your top 3 Elizabeth Banks films?
Oh, wow. You know, I'm terrible at recalling movie titles and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked it, because I think that would be a lot of fun to see if you can even remember them.
No, actually none. So I will ask you, have you all seen Cocaine Bear?
Have not.
I have not. And I can't believe that I haven't, because I was so excited when that movie was coming out, because finally, 2 of my favorite things, bears and cocaine, rolled into one movie. No, I have not seen it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get together and watch that, shall we?
Amen.
I was shocked that you even remembered Elizabeth Banks' name. I thought you could be like, oh, there's that girl that I really like.
Yeah, right. Remember she was in that movie. What was it called?
Yeah.
Remember that one where she was the girl?
Yeah. The hot, funny girl.
Yeah.
I'll throw Zach and Mary Make a Porno in there. I really love that one.
Nice. I'll go with Early Days, Wet Hot American Summer.
Of course. What are we
Come
thinking?
on. One of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, ding. You win that round. Okay. So, Evan, what was the worst thing that you saw this week? You got a lot to choose from.
The worst thing that I saw was everything else, but specifically the number of turnovers in the game last night. We, all across the pitch, left to right, front to back, were passing the ball out of bounds, leading a guy too much, not leading him enough, passing it directly to the other team. We had to have set a record for the most turnovers in Imagine Club history last night. I just could not believe how inaccurate the passing was. And we've had games like this, especially games when we've been missing some key players and been kind of relying on some B-team midfielders. We've seen games where one or two or three guys were pretty inaccurate with their passing, but nothing like we saw last night where almost everyone, with the exception of maybe like Drew Yearwood, just completely in shambles passing the ball around the pitch.
I thought the same thing. I've looked at the stats on last night's game, and I don't know how MLS keeps statistics, but we actually won the passing accuracy battle for some reason. We had 524 total passes to their 404. We had a passing accuracy percentage of 86.8 versus their 84.9.
I would have to guess that has something to do with passing the ball backwards because
yeah,
we did a ton of that last night. And of course, that's a reliably more accurate pass. But if there was a way to separate out just that back pass to relieve pressure, because my God, the pressure LAFC was putting on us from the get-go was insane. They clearly came into this game with a chip on their shoulder, a point to prove, because from the opening whistle, they were all over us, and we were just constantly in retreat mode.
John, you predicted that last week. You said LA was going to come out firing.
And I unfortunately was correct on that. What I wasn't correct on is that we would be able to withstand it because, yeah, we sure did not. So, yeah, my worst thing of the week pretty much was the same thing. It was the midfield. You could pick apart the whole team for sure, but the midfield other than Yearwood, boy, I praised him last week. I don't know what he was doing last night. He was running all over the place. I kind of compared him to my U6 soccer team because he was just running after the ball, but like not affecting the play. Like he was just like running to where it was. And there was like, I don't know what the strategy was, but obviously Anunga, man, he was bad. And I liked Anunga in the past, but if you're going to play Anunga, the minimum for like a defensive-minded midfielder, he needs to break up the play, do what he needs to do there, and then make the simple pass to relieve pressure. And he couldn't do that. He was giving it away constantly. And right in the most dangerous positions, too. Like those passing statistics, what's the line? Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yes.
It doesn't matter passing it backwards or whatever. That won't tell you what happens in a soccer game. If they get the ball 20, 25 yards right in the middle of the field, they only need one pass to set up a scoring opportunity. So they don't have to string passes together. We were constantly giving the ball over, especially in the most dangerous positions right there in the middle of the field. So unfortunately, I have to jump on a guy I like, Brian Anunga. He didn't get it done last night.
I thought the same thing. It wasn't working, whatever we were trying to do with him. Back to the Muil thing, I had a pop quiz for you. Do you know what his position was supposed to be last night?
I think he was supposed to be kind of the right side of the three in a 4-2-3-1.
Correct.
God, who could tell that by watching a game?
That was my thought, was that we're going to do Soccer 101 later. And, I was going to say, what do you look for in a 4-2-3-1 to identify that that's the formation and the strategy? But the way it was executed last night, especially with Muil, I would not have been able to guess that. I would have guessed he was playing on the left. Because he was over there so often.
Right. He was designated chaser, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, we were praising his energy, his motor last week. It was the best version of Alex. Yes. And this was the Mr. Hyde version of all of that, where he was still running around. He still had all the energy in the battery, but boy, it just wasn't effective. It wasn't impactful at all, and not in a good way anyway.
He was Cocaine Bear.
He was Cocaine Bear. All right, well, let's do the up-down. As you guys know, with the up down, we're going to be talking about the things that we saw this past week that we think are trending up and the things we think are trending down. This isn't necessarily the best or the worst of what you saw, but the things that you see getting better. Again, that'll be a challenge. And the things that you see that are getting worse. So, John, we'll start with you. What's something that you see trending upward?
Trending upward, the job opportunities for any out-of-work MLS coaches. If I was Gio Savarese or Robin Fraser right now, I'd be like polishing that resume because, man, if we don't get it together soon, I don't see a way we can get away with keeping on with Gary. And last week, my hot take was Gary is a good soccer coach, and I still believe that, but all the time, good soccer coaches still get fired. I think Jose Mourinho is a genius. He's been fired from, 6 or 7 jobs now? Sometimes good soccer coaches lose a team. Like, they're not listening to him anymore. And really, the only people who would know whether this is a situation or not are the people in the locker room. We can guess. We can see frustration on the field. But, again, I don't know if he's lost a team or not, but kind of looked like they gave up last night. It's not encouraging. So, yeah, if I was a Bob Bradley, I'd be like, man, I could get used to hot chicken, country music,
bachelorette parties.
Yeah.
Gary was fired the year after he won the MLS championship. There's notoriously short leashes on these coaches in this league. And I think that he's possibly in a situation more justifiable now than it was then. I know there was some confrontation between him and the front office when that situation went down. And he had to kind of go into no man's land for a while, right? I mean, he had to go over to England, coach in the lower divisions there.
Stevenage.
Came back here. What's that? Yeah, Steve. What was it?
Stevenage in the League Two, yeah.
Right. And then he was able to make his way back to America, USL, and then was able to get back up to MLS. So, and get his second shot, his second lease on life. But it's not going so well these days. Not to say we have enjoyed tremendous success the first few seasons of this club's existence in MLS. There's no doubt about it. We had terrific identity as a defensive team, one of the most difficult teams to score against, but we started to see some cracks in that last year. It's really showing some signs of that this year. Evan, do you have anything that's trending up?
Trending up is anybody who did not play in last night's match. I even found myself kind of missing Randall Leal last night, and I never would have thought I would have felt that way after last season. But this is small, but maybe Hani's corner kicks looked a little bit better last night. He seemed to clear that first defender on the few corners that we had last night. So there you go. There's your silver lining, boys.
The trending up is wishing for Randall Leal. I did have a whole thing about Leal. We haven't talked about him at all this season.
Yeah.
And he's kind of that forgotten player. When he's in there and he's doing the right things, again, he's kind of this trick-or-treat player, sort of like Will is. But when he is on, he changes this team dynamic into something really special. But we've barely been able to have him on the field at all.
He was like the Robin to Hani's Batman our first 2 MLS seasons, maybe even our best player the first season. But yeah, his lack of staying healthy, and when he has played, he's been inconsistent at best.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's pick out what's trending downward besides everything and everything. Evan, what do you think? What stands out as particularly a downward trend for you?
Daniel Lovitz. We've obviously seen him lose his starting job to Taylor for whatever reason. And maybe you guys know some more about that than I do. But even when he got in there last night, because, Taylor struggled last night. So Lovitz got his chance and he was no better. Maybe worse. I thought Taylor struggled. I think that penalty kick he gave away was just unfortunate. I think it was Tillman maybe slipped in right there, over his shoulder, and was able to draw that foul in the penalty box. That's tough, but my God, Lovett's in there, giving the ball away, getting beat. What's going on with him? Do you guys have any idea?
I know he was injured in the preseason, but I haven't heard any lingering effects. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'm not there, but it is weird. My opinion is that Taylor Washington should not start road games.
Okay.
I think his forte is on the attacking side. And when we're expected to attack more at home, I think he does a great job. But when we are up against it in the road matches, and it's always hard for any team in MLS to win road matches. If you look at the stats, it's not good. And I don't think he's cut out to be a defense-first player. I think the occasion of the huge crowd last night, LAFC putting all the pressure on him, I think he's not built for that. Yeah, I don't know why Lovitz. I don't know what's going on. I'd love to know. I'd love to be on a fly on the wall.
I think with Lovitz, another thing that we know that is consistent with this team is their lack of transparency around injuries and status of players. So if he is still dealing with a nagging injury or playing himself back into feeling like 100%, we would never know that because the team sure doesn't communicate it at all. That could be a possibility. I agree with you exactly what you're saying on Washington, John. I thought that he really got poured upon on social media last night. If you were checking Twitter or Reddit or any of those places, people were all over him and his performance and really dumping on him. I actually think once he gets it past midfield, he was doing a pretty decent job. Of course, last week we were singing his praises for an excellent service to Sam for that header in the Charlotte game.
Yeah.
He's actually executing that take it down the wing and cross it better than I've seen a lot of our players do over the past couple of years. But with that, on the defensive side, you're exactly right. He's struggling to keep up with the speed, I think, of people that are attacking. And it just seems like he's getting turned around really easily, but not as badly as Anunga was, in my opinion. It was even worse from him. Anyway, what was something that you observed trending downward this week besides all of this other stuff?
Well, my my trending down is, I'm going macro. Nashville SC is trending down.
Yes.
I did some more stats searching, even more than the 5 wins in 21 games. I'm going since June 17th, 2023. Nashville beat St. Louis City SC 3-1 at home behind a Hani Mukhtar hat trick. It was glorious. It was one of the best nights at Geodis that I can remember other than Leagues Cup. And I remember the MVP chants for Hani. Mm-hmm. I mean, we knew he was going to win another MVP at that point. And since that point, we have played 25 games against MLS competition, not including Leagues Cup. Those 25 games, we have 4 wins, 12 losses, 9 draws, 19 goals for, 35 allowed.
Ooh, wow.
Hani Mukhtar, in those 25 games against MLS teams, has 2 goals, one of which was a 98th minute penalty against Charlotte FC last year. So 1 goal from open play in 25 matches, and only 3 assists to go with that for our MVP. Those are not pretty numbers. And that's, in England, they would call that relegation form. We're lucky we don't have relegation over here because that's almost a full MLS season, 25 games.
Mm-hmm.
I really think we got 3 games to figure out, is this a team that had one shitty night last night, or is this a team that's going to rebound from that shitty night and compete for a playoff spot?
Against possibly the 3 best teams in the league.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll see what we're made of.
Yeah, I go back to our original conversation. Are you guys sure it's not premature to start worrying about this? 25 games seems to me like a long enough sample size to where this is a serious discussion now. This team's not good, and they haven't been good for a while. I hate to say it because I love this team.
Yeah, I will say this. For a lot of that time, Walker Zimmerman are possibly really our MVP. Oh, that's a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
He played, the second half of last year, apparently under great physical duress because he was in a boot for the entire winter. Of course, again, with Nashville SC's lack of transparency, none of us really knew that until Greg Berhalter mentioned it in the January U.S. national team call-ups as to why he wasn't there. So, yeah, maybe this whole time we haven't had a healthy Walker Zimmerman, but relying on one defender, that's not an ideal situation for a MLS team to be. Like, if you're relying on one attacker, yeah, but if you're relying on just one defender being the make or break between the worst team in the league or a playoff team, it's not a great situation.
Yeah, I agree. And Walker, he's 30 years old. He's not going to be around for forever. Like you said, we can't rely on just him. If that's the only difference between us being great and being terrible, we've got problems. And maybe now we understand why there was such a activity around acquiring other defenders this offseason, but I haven't seen a lot of fruit come from those acquisitions yet either.
Yeah. Mike Jacobs, get on it. Get on the phone.
Get busy
We need more
already.
people.
Okay, well, let's move to the Nashville Hot Chicken Takes. I know you guys have queued up some really spicy hot takes for me this week. So, Evan, we'll start with you. Let us have it. What's your hottest take? And once again, you got a lot to sink your teeth into here.
Here's my hot take for you, fellas. Last night was the bottom. We are about to go on a tear.
Ooh.
All right? It's always darkest before the dawn. You can feed me these stats all you want. I'm not here for them. I just feel it in my gut, just like I felt the small goal last week. Wait, what? No. We're about to go on a tear, okay? We were without Zimmerman, or we had an unhealthy Zimmerman since last summer. Hani ran out of gas after a year and a half plus of giving us more than we could have ever asked from him, okay? Like you said, we were kind of overly dependent on Zimmerman in the back, Hani up front, but we retooled. We've got the guys. They're working their way in. If we can just get everybody back, or at least the vast majority of everybody available, we're about to go on a tear. We're about to go on one of these classic late spring, early summer NSC runs. Go ahead and write it down, boys.
Spicy.
Yeah, I don't know how convinced I am. I think that it's probably spicy for a tourist, but a local would know better. And I'd give it a solid medium. John, can you do any better here?
All right. My hot take is that if Nashville SC does not get 4 points from the next two matches against Columbus and Philly, we should fire Gary Smith. And not only that, I'll tell you who we should replace him with. I've done some scouting. Ben Perman. Either of y'all have ever heard of Ben Perman?
No, do tell.
No.
He is a 38-year-old coach, currently with Charleston Battery in the USL Championship. Let me tell you this guy's resume. His first coaching job was in 2013. He was 26 or 27 with Detroit City FC. At that time, they were an amateur team. He built this team up to where they are now a USL Championship team and have one of the most loyal fan bases in America. Sometime around 2019 or so, he joined the coaching staff at Memphis 901 FC when they entered USL Championship. He was an assistant for a season or two, then took over their job. He led them to the playoffs twice when they previously were a very terrible team. He won USL Championship Coach of the Year in 2022. After that season, Charleston Battery, another USL Championship team, who in 2022 were 6 wins, 21 losses, and 7 draws, next to last in the league. Hired him last season. They were 17 wins, 9 losses, 8 draws, finished second in the league, only losing the final on penalty kicks. This guy can coach. And MLS teams are notoriously reluctant, I believe, to look at lower leagues. If we are in the position of we're doing so badly that we have to fire our coach in mid-season, why not let a low-risk young coach come in and see what he can do with this crop? Obviously, there's the bones of a good team here. We have a MLS MVP as our star player. We have 2 U.S. internationals that play defense for us. We have young talent. Canada's young starlet, Jacob Schaufelberg. We have a good young English striker, Sam Sturridge. Why not let some new coach with fresh ideas come and have a season and see what happens with them? I'm saying it's low risk. If we flame out and we just have a fucking giant turd of a season, then we get rid of him and we go after an MLS veteran for next season. But what if we can turn it around? Like, what if this young, fresh idea coach can turn the team around and he wins Coach of the Year, and then we have the envy of MLS? I'm just saying, why not try?
What have we got to lose?
What do we got to lose? But, if we do win these next 2 games, then fuck yeah, let's see what Gary can do with the whole team forever. Build
Sure,
a statue
why
of him.
Man, that's terrific. Do you watch a lot of USL to have a good understanding? Yeah.
A little bit.
I
Every
figured
once
you.
in a while. Yeah. I have a soft spot for it because we used to play on it. I enjoyed the USL.
Well, I don't have a huge hot take. That's a pretty good one, John. I'm going to definitely make that a legitimately hot. That's hot on the scale of hot chicken takes. But I don't have a terrific one other than I just think that more so the keys to our success these days are not so much Hani and Zimmerman, but Schaufelberg and McNaughton. are the real keys to being the difference. We have to have Hani in there regardless, but I think that Schaff gives us a different level on the offense that we can get to, and McNaughton has been the more stable piece of our defense for a while now, as Zimmerman has bounced in and out of the lineup. And I don't think that we lose. I don't think we give up 5 goals if McNaughton's playing last night. I don't know what's going on with Jack Mayer or Dan Lovitz. That's weird to me because they've been so rock solid for a long time. But McNaughton's the key back there right now. And like I said, on offense, I think Schaff is the real key. With Hani as a facilitator, I said this last week, I think Hani's future lies in playmaking, creating, and Schaffelberg beating people, and he's learning how to finish. He's doing it pretty consistently now. So that's my hot take.
I like it. It's like Canadian poutine right there. It's not really spicy, but it's flavorful.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious. You're definitely not going to turn it down if it gets put in front of you. I'll tell you
right.
that. Okay, next up, let's do some Soccer 101. So guys, as you know, with Soccer 101, this is a portion of the podcast where we try to break things down in real basic terms for maybe the novice soccer fan, the novice NSC fan. And we're going to take some different pieces that we saw in the game this week and talk about what we're seeing and just explain it so that a newer fan can better understand and enjoy the game. Did either of you guys have something specific that you wanted to hone in on for Soccer 101?
Yeah, I did. And we touched on it earlier, talking about the first goal where Joe came out a little bit indecisively. But I went back and watched the replay, and worse than Joe's indecisiveness was Anunga's marking. It was atrocious. He had one guy in his vicinity. He was right there kind of near the penalty spot. Tillman was his man. Tillman just kind of casually strolls right behind him. Anunga stays frozen, and Tillman gets that tap in off the rebound. Anunga barely moved off his original spot when he had one job, and that was to mark Tillman in the box.
Yeah, I rewatched that too, and it was so bad. Anunga was so bad on that I could not tell whether we were trying to do man-to-man or zonal marking because he just froze like someone was playing FIFA with him and their controller broke until the end. He just walked right in. I don't know what's going on there because he's a defensive midfielder. You might want to put more emphasis on the defending side, buddy.
That right there is Soccer 101. Maybe some teams, and John, you probably know better than me, maybe some teams do kind of a zone marking, but I've never zone marked on corner kicks. When I played soccer, it was always you pick a man, you get on him, you stay between him and the ball, and you definitely do not let him slip back behind you towards the back post like that. I mean, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, a lot of European teams do zonal marking now, but the whole idea with zonal marking is if you're going to let a guy run behind you, you need to make sure there's someone behind you that is going to pick up that runner. And if we were doing a zonal marking, I'm not sure that we were. He should have.
And neither was Anunga.
Yeah. No, I don't know if he knew what was happening on that play.
There was nobody rotating back to
Taylor
that.
was on the line, which was his job on that. There's usually someone on the line with the keeper. But yeah, that left a whole, 12-yard gap between the penalty spot and the goal where nobody was. So yeah, very bad.
I agree with you guys. I saw it in the moment even. I was like, that looked ugly from a formation. You know, Joe missed the leap on that ball. There's no doubt about it. He mistimed it. But we should have still had defenders able to recover and cover that back half of the goal anyway. And that just didn't happen. A lot of people dumped on Washington for that play. But I saw him kind of being drawn out. One of LAFC's players, I believe, leaked out right, and he kind of drew out with him. He was covering his man from what I could tell. Whereas, like you said, Tillman just slipped right behind, nobody on him, and was able to get the easy score. Okay, John, did you have something in particular to discuss for Soccer 101?
Sure. Let's talk about some more about corner kicks. Our own corner kicks.
Yes, I'm here for it.
What are we trying to do with them? Okay, so here's what we are trying to do with it. Moneyball statistical analysis will tell you that the most likely place to score from, and I don't have the stats to back this up, but I do believe, I have read this before, a near post corner is the most likely to score. We are trying to do it every single time. We're always trying to go near post. So it gets very frustrating as a fan. You're watching, you're like, why don't they kick it over that first guy? The reason we're trying to win the header at the near post, which is a flick on into the middle of the goal, which then creates chaos. If we do win that first header, we've been traditionally very successful on corner kicks.
Because we tended to have Walker crashing that front, that near post for that flick on.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing that since first half of last season.
Yeah. So when we don't have Walker, I suggest that we need to have a lot more variety in our corner kicks because the other team knows what we're going to do every time. You see 2 or 3 guys they have defending on the near post. And so a lot of our corners just hit the first guy and go bouncing out. And you feel the whole stadium go, oh, God, what are we doing? Me personally,
that was me.
Yeah. Me personally, I love short corner routine. And a lot of people get frustrated with it because the whole crowd is, clapping NSC. And then you go short and it's like, come on, take a shot. I love playing it quickly to the near corner of the box. The defense rushes out to try to drag us offside. A quick cross from the top corner of the box. You can have players crashing the back post, and in the confusion of the rush out by the defense, you can have people onside. That's my preferred corner. But the main thing is you have to have variety. The defense can't know what you're going to do every single time. So, yeah, I think we should have a lot more variety with those corner kicks. Send some to the PK spot. Yeah, some short.
John, do you know any good set piece coaches?
Man, that's a good question. I know some in Europe, but they're not going to come to Nashville.
I think maybe.
Do you know any?
I think you should put yourself forward.
John Lewis. I mean, yeah, I've spent a whole lifetime studying set pieces, and I know how to read. I'm putting my resume right now. I know how to read. I can type. I have customer service experience.
Do you know Microsoft Office?
And I do. And I've watched 9 trillion fucking corner kicks in my life.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my experience.
I'll write you a recommendation, okay, buddy?
Love it.
When's the last time you missed a corner kick in FIFA?
Not often, bro. Well, I do have Virgil van Dijk on my FIFA team. You put it to the PK spot, and I average 2 goals a game with Virgil van Dijk on corner kicks. I think real life might be a little different, but not that much.
It's been a longer time since John missed a corner kick in FIFA since Hani Mukhtar scored in an MLS game. That's
There's your hot take.
Yeah. I wanted to ask on this topic of corner kicks and on this topic of Hani Mukhtar, what do you think of his service, at least as far as what he's being instructed to do, what we're trying to accomplish with this service to the near side, score on the near post? What do you think of his being the one who is taking the corner kick and putting it in there? He's a shorter guy, so he's not going to be valuable fighting with defenders and trying to win that aerial ball. So maybe he is, and he certainly has great placement. So I guess he makes sense as the person to take the corner kick. But how would you score his overall performance in that particular regard?
Poor. And we used to be much better on set pieces, even maybe in a game where we didn't have Walker for whatever reason. But we used to spread it around a little bit more. Lovitz used to take corners. Other guys used to take corners. Now Hani takes 95% or more, and we rarely score on a corner kick. And so, like you said, shorter guy, maybe a harder time getting the clearance above the front. Obviously our best scorer, but he's one of our best poacher type goal scorers, you know what I mean? Like quick, tough angles, crazy shot. Why take him out of the equation? If he can't even give you great service from the corner, surely there's not enough drop off between him and whoever's below him, Lovitz or whatever, to compensate for having him in there for a ball pinging around and getting a shot on goal.
Yeah, exactly. If you're playing for that second ball, why not have a guy with a distinct nose for where the ball's going to go as one of those guys poaching an ugly goal? I totally agree with you. in general, I don't know why we ever take out swingers, really. It used to be, I think, we played more in swingers, didn't we? Like Lovitz would take them with his left foot swinging in. Hani would do from the right side swinging in. Surely we got someone else. Why not Taylor Washington? He puts a good ball in. Let him have a few with his left foot.
I was thinking Shaq.
Boyd? Yeah, Shaq. Yeah.
Yeah,
Come on.
Boyd. Have we seen Boyd take a corner? I thought maybe we saw him take one earlier this season.
I think he took a few in maybe the CONCACAF.
One other Soccer 101 question that I had, and I don't know how prepared you are to answer this, either you guys, but I'll ask it. I'm curious about the lineup that we rolled out last night, which we mentioned before was a 4-2-3-1. And I was wondering if you could explain what the strategy is there versus what we've seen. That's the first time we've seen that this season. And I was wondering if you could explain what the strategy or what you're trying to accomplish there versus what we've seen with some of the other games. John, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think what we are trying to do, LA lines up in a 4-3-3. That's 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 1 central striker, and 2 wingers. And I think we were trying to have an advantage in the midfield. We probably knew that they would have an advantage in the build-up, and we were probably trying to outman them in the midfield. It didn't work out that way because we had no shape. Like we talked about Muil being all over the place, so you couldn't really count him as being one of the guys that's going to overwhelm a midfield. Both Hani and Boyd, I felt, were having to really come deep to even try to get the ball. If you're going to play that, you need cohesiveness in the unit to make the extra people work to your advantage. And it really didn't work last night because they sliced through us however they wanted to, really. Some of their later goals were like 25 pass moves, I feel like, or the opportunities anyway. The extra men did not contribute to anything. But I think that's what we were trying to do.
Evan, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I don't know the reason by any stretch, but when I looked at it on paper and maybe compared it to, say, a 4-4-2, I thought maybe he's trying to get Moyle further up the field to capitalize on his good form, his offensive form from recently. But again, it clearly did not work.
You mentioned last week, John, about with a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, where when you have people on that back line, you're more likely going to see those wing defenders move up and be more aggressive. Do you still do that in the 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, you would. You're kind of relying still a little bit on the wing backs providing depth in the attack. Speaking of that, I think last night would have been a really good night to use the 3-back with both McNaughty and Zimmerman out. I really expected Kalman, Bauer, and Mayer to be in a 3-back. I don't know if that would have made any difference or not, but that's what I expected us to do.
I just wonder if that lineup helped to basically open things up for LAFC. I mean, as far as spacing, they had tons of space to work, particularly once they got it into our half. And I felt like we were running and chasing a lot. But it also didn't help that we were passing the ball away at every possible opportunity. Yeah. I saw Boyd just passing it directly to LA players, Anunga. Everybody was guilty last night. I felt like it was really ugly as far as the turnovers go. Again, that's not a stat that's easy to find, but I'm sure it does not look good in our favor, whatever it was. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Let's move on to a new segment. This one's called Dear Gary. So in this segment, guys, what I want you to do is pretend you're writing a letter to Coach Gary Smith and just tell me how your first paragraph would read, or maybe it's the whole letter. If you had to write a letter to Gary, what would it sound like? Evan?
Dear Gary, it is time to bench Tyler Boyd. He's played worse and worse since that first Mocha game, so that appears to be more and more of a fluke. Use him as a super sub until he gets pissed off enough to play well. You can thank me later.
Sincerely, Evan.
That was a hot take.
That was hotter than the hot take.
He has gotten off very easily so far in this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
He might have been our worst player last night. I don't think he did anything good at all except for that nice little spin move there towards the end of the game. Other than that, he was an absolute train wreck last night.
I agree.
Yeah,
Like I
100%.
said, he was passing the ball away. He was giving the ball up at every possible opportunity. John, what's your letter to Gary look like?
Here we go.
Dear Gary, you've lived in Nashville for 7 seasons. You've got to stop talking like a Dickens chimney sweep. You've got to throw in a y'all or a bless your heart occasionally. You got to put some seasoning on your chicken. Eat some banana pudding. Got to get people back on your side, you know? People in the South are not ready for this. You got to stop with the excuses. You got to stop blaming injuries, international play, or the schedule. You know, you got to stop blaming the schedule. Gary, study Phil Fulmer. Phil Fulmer is a Tennessee legend. Do you think he would put all these excuses? Phil Fulmer would be like,
Well, we laid a giant shit out there today. I hate all my players. And I'm about to go beat their asses until they're good and proper again. That's my letter to Gary.
Beautiful. Well done.
Oh, wow.
I didn't expect the accents, too. That's terrific. So Gary needs to talk like a Southerner, eat like a Southerner, and coach like Phil Fulmer.
Yeah. He needs to get people back on his side because right now there's not that many that are. We might be the 3 closest, and even we are not that great. We don't love him that much.
No, I can attest to that. I don't know if it's fire Gary or what the trending hashtag is on social media, but there's no one really saying keep Gary.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about moving on, and I think his seat's pretty hot, at least from a fan standpoint. I don't know what the front office thinks, but I think they're just worried about counting money.
Yeah, who are we to question their decisions?
Yeah, they've done so well so far. Guys, let's wrap this up with the week in preview. Looking to rebound from the team's worst loss in its history, NSC will return home for a matchup against last year's MLS champs, the Columbus Crew. The Crew have picked up where they left off last year, having won 3 matches so far, drawn 1, and lost 1, though the loss was in their most recent game against a lowly Charlotte FC that Nashville just beat 2-1 1 week ago. Columbus has also advanced in the CONCACAF Cup tournament, so they are working to balance a full schedule with their regular MLS obligations. Last year's league MVP Cucho Hernandez is also shining with 3 goals so far in MLS play. Meanwhile, Nashville has a record of 1 win, 1 loss, and 3 draws, and their leading scorer in MLS play is Teal Bunbury. Sorry, I just have to laugh a little bit at that. The goal differential so far for Columbus is +3, and thanks to that blowout loss to LAFC, Nashville's goal differential is -4. Guys, do you have any wild and crazy predictions about what's going to happen in this next week? John, we'll start with you.
Wild and crazy.
It doesn't have to be wild and crazy, but we do like that better.
Here's our best wild and crazy prediction. Wilfred Nancy, Columbus's coach, who is by a wide margin, in my opinion, the best coach in MLS, gets hired by a European team sometime this week. And in the chaos, their players are so dejected that we win 3-0. Easy win with 2 from Teal Bunbury.
Wow. Which team is going to hire him?
I'm going to say Nottingham Forest.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? He missed their loss against Charlotte yesterday. The team said that he was sick, and there's a bit of rumors going around about him. Somebody in Europe is eventually going to hire him, and somebody's going to have a hit on their hand, I think, because what he's done with both CF Montreal and Columbus Crew is amazing. He turned both of those teams from boring defensive nothing teams the last few seasons into attacking dynamos. They were amazing to watch last year in his first season there. If he gets hired away, he definitely deserves a bigger primetime job. But I don't know if it's going to happen this week or not, but this is my optimistic outlook.
Do you think he'd be interested in penthouse or a townhome down in East Nashville somewhere.
Well, if Ian Ayre had listened to me at the end of the 2022 season, he would already be here because I knew he wasn't going to stay in Montreal. I wanted to go after him then. If you saw CF Montreal in 2022, they were unrecognizable. Like, they were amazing. They scored 70, 80 goals that season with not that great a attacking team. He can squeeze blood from a turnip.
Wow. What do you think that it is that he's doing there that makes the difference?
I don't know. It's got to be something behind the scenes. Like, he gets his teams in the mode to attack. I like it a lot. I hope we beat his ass, though.
Yeah. Evan, what do you think we're going to do this week?
I think it depends on who we get back or not. If we get... So, question, will we have Godoy and Schaffelberg back from international duty?
Yeah, Schaffelberg, I think, should be... Yeah, Godoy should be, too, because they play today in the third place game. Yeah.
Okay.
They should both be back.
That's what I was assuming. And so I'm going to say we bounce back with at least a draw, if not a win. Yeah, I really think, I know it was terrible last night, but I really do think it's the bottom. I think we bounce back Saturday night. Is it Saturday night? I think we bounce back against Columbus. They're winless away. There is this coaching speculation, potential coaching change. I think we bounce back with at least a draw and maybe a win.
I love it. Yeah, it's going to be a win in front of the home crowd, and we're going to see contributions from multiple people. We're going to see Hani score for the first time in an MLS game since September. Sam Surge is going to hook one in as well. We might even get Schaffelberg scoring one as well. I think it's going to be all stars on deck for this one. So I'm looking for a 3-1 win.
Nice.
Yeah. Back on the horse and back headed towards glory.
Yes.
Love it.
All right. Well, guys, that wraps up another terrific episode of Electric Gold. Appreciate your time today. John, you want to let people know how to get in touch with us?
Absolutely. Instagram, Twitter. We are Electric Gold NSC. Please follow us. Please listen. Please tell us what you think. If you love us, if you hate us, we really don't care. We're not getting paid either way, so just let us know.
It doesn't really matter, just as long as we get feedback of any kind. And hey, if you've got a Soccer 101 question you want to throw our way, if you comment that, and we'll try to answer it on the next podcast.
Yeah, or if you've got a passage from Charles Dickens or something that you want John to read in his lovely accent, yeah, let us know.
Or an Elizabeth Banks movie we should check out.
There you go.
Even better. All right, well, thanks, guys, so much. We'll talk to you next time. And everybody, come on, you boys in gold.